Most people are willing to help others as long as helping doesn't cost them anything. Most people are willing to give as long as they still have enough left for themselves. Most people are willing to sacrifice until sacrifice becomes painful. But what happens when someone else needs the very thing you desperately need yourself? What happens when faith asks you to put another person before your own comfort, before your own desires, before your own survival? This is where Islam took brotherhood to a level few people ever reach. In our previous episodes, we saw how Islam transformed scattered individuals into a single ummah. Then we saw how believers became brothers, a community connected by faith, a community connected by love, a community connected by loyalty. But Islam did not stop there, because words are easy, claims are easy. Saying, "I love my brother," is easy. The real question is, what happens when love requires sacrifice? What happens when helping someone else costs you something? This is where Islam introduced one of the highest levels of faith, a quality that changed ordinary believers into extraordinary human beings.
Most people naturally prefer themselves, their own comfort, their own needs, their own safety, their own future. This is part of human nature. But Islam wanted to raise believers above that instinct, not by destroying human nature, but by purifying it. By teaching believers to care so deeply about one another that they could sometimes place another person's need ahead of their own. Allah described this quality with remarkable words. He said, وَيُثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They give preference to others over themselves, even though they themselves are in need. Notice how extraordinary this is. Allah did not praise people for giving while wealthy. Allah did not praise people for helping when it was easy. Allah praised people who gave while they themselves needed what they were giving away. That is the difference. That is what makes sacrifice remarkable.
Giving away what you do not need is good. Helping when it costs very little is good. Supporting others when life is comfortable is good. But Islam was building something greater. Islam was creating hearts that could rise above selfishness. Hearts capable of choosing generosity over personal comfort. Hearts capable of choosing another person's need over their own immediate desire. This is not weakness. This is strength. Because controlling the self is often harder than defeating an enemy. The greatest battles are often fought inside the human heart. The early Muslims did not merely hear these teachings, they lived them. One of the most powerful examples occurred during battle. Several wounded Muslims lay on the battlefield, suffering from intense thirst. Water was brought to one of them. Before drinking, he heard another wounded Muslim nearby. That man sounded even more desperate, so he told them to take the water to his brother first. The water was carried to the second man. Before drinking, he heard another wounded Muslim. He too refused to drink before his brother. The water was carried again, then again. Each wounded man preferred another believer over himself. Each one chose his brother's need before his own. By the time the water returned, they had all passed away. None of them drank. Each one had chosen someone else. Even in the final moments of life, even while facing death itself, faith had transformed the human heart. Imagine a society built upon this principle. A society where people genuinely care about one another, where greed is restrained, where selfishness is weakened, where believers look beyond themselves. Such a community becomes difficult to break, because every person becomes a source of strength for others. Every person becomes a source of mercy. Every person becomes a source of support. This is why Islam invested so heavily in building character. Civilizations are not built merely through laws. They are built through people. And people become great when they learn to rise above themselves.
Anyone can claim brotherhood. Anyone can speak about unity. Anyone can talk about love. But sacrifice reveals what truly exists inside the heart. Sacrifice separates words from reality. It reveals whether faith has become a living force within a person. The early Muslims were not remembered because they spoke beautifully. They were remembered because they lived what they believed. Their faith was visible. Their brotherhood was visible. Their sacrifice was visible. And that is why they transformed history.
But Islam still wanted believers to reach an even greater level, a level where the suffering of one believer becomes the concern of all believers, a level where the entire Ummah functions like a single body. When one part hurts, every other part feels the pain. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next episode.